Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm honored to have been invited to speak at such a conference, but I'm disappointed that I'm not with you personally. I was hoping to be there to exchange information and learn from the knowledge of delegates and participants. However, I will try my best to convey my presentation through the modern technology. I will focus my presentation on the English law as it regulates and manages charitable trusts and endowments. Many well-known charities, not-for-profit organizations, institutions in the UK are set up with an endowment. English trust law has, over the course of many years and cases, developed a strong understanding and application of endowments. Endowments can be of two types. Investment permanent endowment. This is capital which is to be used to provide an income for the charity and which cannot be spent as income. The document that directs how the property should be held and used will usually specify that the capital should be invested and the income from the investments spent on specific charitable purposes. Functional permanent endowment. This is capital to be used for a specific purpose or purposes of the charity. Common examples of functional permanent endowment include village halls, recreation grounds, housing, museums, and historic buildings. With this type of permanent endowment, the distinction between capital and income often does not apply, as there may be no income. The concept of endowment stems from none other than the Islamic Waqf. During the Middle Ages, Muslims had a strong tradition of endowing schools attached to mosques that were called madrasas. Here, students would learn law and jurisprudence and other subjects to enhance their education. During the Crusades, many European Christian organizations were present in the Middle East, such as the Knight Templar and Franciscan Friars. These organizations came back to Europe, having seen how the Waqf operated, and began to implement it in Europe. A key example is Oxford University. A high-ranking official called Walter de Merton endowed Merton College, Oxford in trust to support scholars in their education. In the UK, charities have a long history. The oldest charity in England is believed to be the King's College, Canterbury, which was established in 597, and despite some gaps in its history, it still exists today. The fundamental principle of charity and philanthropy are deeply ingrained in this country's culture. However, the way those principles establish themselves and how they've been given effect since is a story of change, reform, and growth. It's clear from their survival over the last 1400 years that charities and their role have always been able to adapt to the changes in society around them. It is similarly clear in order to support the process of adaptation and allow it to continue, the law surrounding charities has been through its own process of revision and renewal. An endowment is essentially a charitable trust. For a trust to exist in English law, there must be three parties. This structure of having three parties itself comes from the Islamic Waqf. There must be a settlor who makes the endowment, trustees who administer the property, and an identifiable beneficiary or class of beneficiaries. But more specifically, an endowment is property that is held by trustees with the purpose of generating money, but be it income or capital growth, with which they can enhance and develop the work of the trust or charity. English law has allowed any income from certain approved investments to be treated as charitable income, meaning it is not subject to income or corporation tax. This is one way in which philanthropic work is encouraged by allowing tax reliefs. Trustees of any charity can decide to invest ethically, even if the investment might provide a lower rate of return than an alternative investment. Ethical investment means investing in a way that reflects a charity's values and ethos and does not run counter to its aims. However, a charity's trustee must be able to justify why it's in the charity's best interest to invest in this way. The law permits the following reasons. A particular investment conflicts with the aims of the charity. The charity might lose supporters or beneficiaries if it does not invest ethically. There is no significant financial detriment. The main legislative basis for endowment is the Trustees Act 2000, which facilitates the administration of trusts. The Act imposes various duties and powers on trustees to assist them in fulfilling their roles and making sure that the endowment is used correctly and for its stated aims. The duties and aims in the Trustee Act are helpful in our understanding of how UK law protects endowments. The first duty is duty of care. Trustees must act with such care and skill as is reasonable, bearing in mind any special knowledge or experience they have. And for professional trustees, any special knowledge or experience, it is reasonable to expect them to have. The law here ensures that the trustees are careful when dealing with any property entrusted to them. By making this a legal duty, we can try to ensure that they do not take any decisions lightly. For a donor, this can be quite reassuring to know that the trustees of their endowment will exercise due care and skill. The legal duty of care applies, 1, when exercising powers of investment, 2, when acquiring or managing land or property. A general power of investment is a second duty. The Trustees Act 2000 replaced the old very restrictive law with a new general power of investment. Subject to the Act, a trustee may make any kind of investment that he could make if he absolutely owned the assets of the trust. This is called the general power of investment. This gave considerable freedom to trustees, but coupled with the duty of care, a donor can still have confidence that their fund will be invested appropriately. The Act also enables trustees to purchase land anywhere in the United Kingdom for the purpose of investment. Third duty, the standard investment criteria. However, to afford further protection, a trustee must have regard to the standard investment criteria when making an investment. The standard investment criteria are: A, the suitability to the trust of investment of the same kind as any particular investment proposed to be made or retained. The need for diversification of investments of the trust insofar as is appropriate to the circumstances of the trust. A trustee must also from time to time review the investments of the trust and consider whether they should be varied. Number 4, taking advice. Before exercising any power of investment, a trust must usually obtain and consider proper advice about the way in which, having regard to the standard investment criteria, the power should be exercised. When reviewing the investment of the trust, a trustee must, unless the exception applies, obtain and consider proper advice about whether, having regard to the standard investment criteria, the investments should be varied. Number 5, a power to acquire freehold and leasehold land. A trustee must acquire the trustee may acquire freehold or leasehold land in the United Kingdom as an investment, for occupation by the beneficiary, for any other reason. Charities Act. An endowment that is held by charity will be further governed by the Charities Act, which provides further guidance on how the duties and powers of trustees and what they can do with the endowment. The Act also establishes a regulator, the Charity Commission, which plays an important role in regulating charities and thereby ensuring that the public continue to have confidence in our charitable organizations. This is essential for the philanthropic sector to be able to continue to achieve its aims. Part of the Charity Commission's role is to ensure that charities stay within the limit of their powers and objects. They should not go beyond their purpose. In this regard, the Commission would have the power to step in while it becomes obvious that the trustees of an endowment are no longer using their income to further the aims of the charity. This is an exercise in protecting the funds and wishes of the benefactor, and again, keeping the trust of both the public and the beneficiaries of the charity. Indeed, the trust has played an important role in achieving various social and economic goals since they were set up. As I have mentioned earlier, the very first endowment in history was set up for the advancement of education. The structure of an endowment suited schools and universities as there was a continuous income, which meant generations of students could receive donations. We can still see this with the University of Oxford, which continues to be funded by endowments. Endowments have always been used for the advancement of religion, have also been used for the advancement of religion to support deprived communities, address needs of changing communities as the Carnegie Trust, which was set up to do, or even to promote medical research or pharmaceutical advances such as the Wellcome Trust. There are a number of reasons why endowments are seen as a favorable way to further charitable aims, which I will highlight now. Number one, tax. Endowments and the income they generate are generally treated as charitable funds and thus exempt from income or corporation tax in the case of a company. This can be an attractive proposition for someone with a large amount of money that they wish to see used in a beneficial manner. Number two, an endowment provides ongoing income into the future. For many charities, the prospect of future donations and income can be a cause of concern when planning. Endowment allows some stable future income, which is why they are so well suited to educational establishments and research institutions that need stability to survive. Number three, an endowment carries with it a certain amount of prestige and stability. The idea of a person donating a large amount of their wealth towards the advancement of a specific cause inspires confidence in the public and the beneficiaries. Many English charities that began with an endowment are worth many millions of pounds and extremely well respected across the world. Number four, many of us have values and ideals that we would like to see promoted and advanced long after we die. Endowments are a useful tool in perpetuating values or priorities that are important to a donor. What lessons we could learn from English experience? Endowments exist to bring benefit to the public. Trustees, as we have seen, have greater powers and flexibility to allow them to do so. Thus, the law regarding charities and endowments must keep adapting itself to protect funds and ensure that the endowments continue to meet their purpose. Over the years, Parliament and practitioners have developed the law and governance of charities considerably. The aim of this has been to protect public funds and make sure that charities continue to be respected and trusted. The regulatory regime plays a vital role in helping to achieve this aim, as well as is well respected all over the world. There is greater confidence and trust in the regulatory regime of British charities because it is evident that they have been subject to much scrutiny, review, and adaptation. Other jurisdictions can take lessons from the laws and procedures in English law relating to charitable endowments. In particular, the duties placed on trustees are what help to protect and enhance the endowments. Without protection and trust in the legal system, people would have doubts about leaving large sums of money in someone else's hands to administer after their death. However, the legal system gives donors the confidence to know that their funds will be used solely for the purpose they left it for, and the trustees are bound by a legal duty to act prudently and responsibly. There are some examples I would like to highlight here from English experience. Wellcome Trust. The Wellcome Trust was established under the will of Sir Henry Wellcome in 1936. In his will, Wellcome stated that after his death, he wanted the entire share capital of the Wellcome Foundation Limited to be held in trust by 5 trustees. The income from the capital should be used for 2 purposes: to advance medical research and understanding of its history. With the enormous possibility of development in chemistry, bacteriology, pharmacy, and allied sciences, there are likely to be vast fields open for productive enterprise for centuries to come. It was written in Sir Henry Wellcome's will. The complexity of Wellcome's affairs and diverse enterprises, along with the need to pay enormous estate duties, kept the trust's income fairly low in its first 20 years. The total charitable income for the period was 1.2 million. But from 1966 to 1986, the Wellcome Foundation evolved from a pharmaceutical company with sales of 32 million pounds to one with sales of over 500 million pounds. This huge jump in profits allowed the Wellcome Trust to greatly increase funding of scientific research over the period. So this growth has allowed the Wellcome Trust to help fund one of Henry's wishes, the advancement of medical and scientific research to improve mankind's well-being. As an editorial of the British Medical Journal stated, upon the creation of the trust in 1936, the trust has every appearance of being a big undertaking, bigger in the next generation than it can be in this. Upon the trustees, especially those representing medicine and the ancillary sciences, a great responsibility will rest for the worthy investment of the sums which periodically become available. The acceptance of the trust could only be regarded as a public duty, a duty not only to the past, to carry out the wishes of a testator of a philanthropic vision, but also to the future, to the various work with unimagined possibilities which may be started as a result of this inheritance. The Joseph Rowentry Foundation, another example I would like to highlight. Joseph Rowentry was a visionary businessman and social reformer. He built New Erswick, a village in York for people on low incomes, including staff who worked in his factory, giving them access to decent homes at affordable rents. He was committed to understanding the causes of poverty and disadvantage in order to create a better society. His son, Sebum Rowentry, was a pioneering social researcher who undertook one of the country's first investigations into the poverty. So these were the 2 examples I highlighted. There are some statistics which I would like to mention now before I end my presentation. 164,889 registered charities in UK, as per the records of the Charity Commission, the regulator. 69.1 billion pounds was the annual income from charities in UK last year, as per the Charity Commission records. The third sector, the voluntary sector, employs around 821,000 employees in UK. The services which these charities generally render include education, housing, faith, health, research and policy, and trade associations. 13 billion worth of funding came from public sources generated by public in 2012. 8,800 grant-making trusts and foundations are in UK. They give 1.7 billion pounds in grants to charitable causes each year. 3.1 billion pounds of large charity funds come from government. So there are about 900 endowed foundations in England and Wales with an income of over 500,000 million and assets of over 49 billion pounds. So this is nearly half of the voluntary sector. I hope this has given you an idea of how charities and the endowments are regulated and managed in United Kingdom. Thank you. Jazakallah.